spaceship that I'm waiting for. I'm flying up to...
I've been in Huntsville since 1988. My dad was in the Army, Air Defense Artillery, so I was born at Fort Campbell, went to White Sands for a few years, and then when he decided to get out, we came to Huntsville. We've been here ever since. There hasn't been a good reason to leave. It's a great town. And growing up, a lot of playing softball, but I was always around the military. My dad, obviously former military, all of his buddies were former military, so grew up in that community, really. And then when I was in college, found an internship through playing City League volleyball here in Huntsville. My dad was playing with a couple of guys and said, hey, Tina needs an internship this summer. Could you take her? And so I started working for Mike Durant, who was running the Intellects Corporation office here in Huntsville as an intern. They asked me to come back full-time after I graduated, and then when Mike started Pinnacle a couple years later, I came in as employee number 4.
Wow.
And then, 15 years later, stepped in as CEO. So grew up through the Pinnacle organization, started as a software engineer, moved up through the leadership ranks over those 15 years.
So you kind of had, because of your father, you kind of had aviation in your blood a little bit.
Yeah, he had his private pilots growing up, so we went up and flew a bunch. We'd go up to the pancake breakfast up in Tennessee and that kind of thing. Had a lot of fun, but definitely between that aviation connection and then the military connection, I knew where I wanted to be when I started my career.
So when you started your career, what was your thinking? What was the place you wanted to be?
I wanted to be a software engineer. I really thought that was going to be my passion.
Like aviation software specifically?
Aerospace engineer was a target at one point. The simulation and training world was really neat to me because it was very diverse. There's a little more flexibility in how you approach things. So I enjoyed that side of things, but I learned very quickly that I'm not good sitting at a desk all day, looking at the same code base all day. The guys and girls that do that on a daily basis are amazing, and I thank them every day, but it was not for me. I needed to be up and out more often.
Where did you go to school?
I graduated from Bob Jones High School here in Madison, and went to college at Austin Peay State University in Tennessee.
Was your degree in software?
Computer science.
Okay.
Yep, computer science degree. Yeah.
Okay. And then from there, you met your future boss through your dad, and
That's right. Yeah. So met Mike in summer of 2004.
so was this kind of like your first career job?
It was. Yes. I have actually never interviewed for a job.
Wow.
So it was really neat. It was just all through who I knew. And then once I started working with Mike and followed him to Pinnacle, just had a lot of good experiences in a small business, learning the ropes of different parts of the business.
Well, you didn't miss anything, because interviewing for a job is, is kind of, like the most interesting thing is they'll ask, like, tell me about your greatest failure.
That's right.
Right? And then if you're lucky, then they'll ask you to tell me about your greatest success.
That's right.
But they don't always ask that one. So, all right. Well, Duke, tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Sure. Well, much like Tina, I did grow up in a house with military member. My dad was in the Navy for 25 years.
Wow.
Retired as a command master chief out of Sinclair Fleet in Norfolk, Virginia. So I did, while I was born in California and we moved back and forth across the state several times, my formative years were pretty much done in Southern Virginia, Virginia Beach and Chesapeake area. Yeah. So when I am asked, well, where'd you grow up, I often say that Virginia.
Right.
Well, when he retired and started working his first job out of the Navy in Norfolk, that lasted for about a year or so, and then we relocated up to Long Island, New York, where he started eventually working for Northrop Grumman. So I finished high school on Long Island, and, pretty typical kid growing up, into sports, into riding bikes, those kinds of things. But aviation was never something that was forefront in my mind.
Really?
I did not grow up thinking, oh, one of these days, I want to be a pilot. So when I finished high school in Long Island, I wanted to go to a good school, thought I wanted to be an engineer, and so I ended up applying for an ROTC scholarship, a Navy ROTC scholarship,
Right.
which I won, and went to school at Purdue University where I majored in math, and I learned there because I thought, hey, engineering's really cool. Well, engineering is a science, so I might as well apply to the School of Science. Well, lo and behold, there's actually a School of Engineering. So I lucked into being a math major and spent 4 years doing that. And then it was while I was there that I was a Marine option, so I knew I was going in the Marine Corps. And I was in our little version of a ready room one day when our Marine officer instructor walked in, and he needed 2 volunteers to take a test. And nobody volunteers to take a test, but I was one of the lucky 2 that was picked to go and do this.
Is it voluntold?
That's exactly what it was. Well, it turned out it was very serendipitous because the test I took was essentially the qualification test, basically that initial screening test to become to go into the pilot pipeline.
Oh, wow.
So me and a guy who's still a great friend of mine to this day, we both took this test, scored real well, and then eventually we found out we were going into the aviation pipeline.
Did you ever want to pilot? Was that something that was ever on your radar?
It really wasn't. In fact, it wasn't until after we took the test that I realized what the test was for. What it was evaluating me on, or the ability, or at least an initial, ability to do something like fly an airplane or a helicopter. So it wasn't until it really sunk in when I went to my first post-collegiate school, the basic school for the Marine Corps, where I realized this is actually going to happen. I'm going to go to flight school. And that's when it really hit me that, man, here it was, this thing that I didn't know I wanted to do ended up becoming, clearly a passion for me. Right. And very thankful for those accidental things that happened along the way that got me there.
What did you end up piloting? Was it fixed wing? Was it helicopters?
It was, I was pretty much a product of the Top Gun generation. So I wanted to be Tom Cruise flying F-18s in the Marine Corps. When I got to flight school, I quickly realized that I'm much more of a rotary wing kind of guy for a variety of reasons. So I ended up going down the rotary wing path and was assigned to fly Cobras, which is the Marine Corps version of the Apache, which many folks will confuse. It's a sexier version of the Apache. And went out to Camp Pendleton where I learned to fly the Cobra, and then deployed from there. And then along the way flew a couple other helicopters as well. But that was my primary. That was my primary version.
Now, I know that you seem like you're being very humble about it, but my understanding is that at one point you were even flying the president around in a helicopter.
Yeah, that is a true story, and a tremendous 4 years out of my life for sure. I did. I checked into HMX-1 Marine Helicopter Squadron 1, actually about 3 weeks before 9/11. And
wow.
And so I was lucky enough to be there then to witness, an incredible transformation in certainly how we conducted aviation operations around the National Capital Region.
Yeah.
I was on the bench. I was doing all the administrative stuff that I could do to support because I wasn't qualified to fly any missions at the time.
Right.
But from 2001 to 2005, I flew President Bush and a whole host of other folks. Everything from congressional and Senate members to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Vice President, and visiting foreign heads of state. So it was, an incredible 4 years.
Were these the white top helicopters we see
That's
when
exactly
the president?
Right. That's exactly
cool.
right. Yeah. So they have 2 that primarily supported the president back then, the H-3 and the VH-60. So everybody learns to fly both of those, and so those. I spent more time in those 2 aircraft while I was there than any other.
Well, not to rabbit trail us, but just because this is a little unique, right? When you are that guy, when you pilot the helicopter with the president, do you ever get to really interact with the president or those dignitaries, or are you kind of just cockpit bound?
During the flight, you are relatively cockpit bound. Now, President Bush actually really enjoyed chatting.
Really?
And we had one of the commanding officers we had there was a history buff. In fact, Civil War history was his thing. So I remember one flight, we were taking the president and family up to Camp David, and we were flying over Maryland. And the president chimed in over the ICS, and he says, "Hey, Colonel Page, I understand you know a little bit about Civil War history. So what are we flying over here?" And he's a history buff himself as well, so he might have been just goading the CO into a story. So we toiled around for about 15 minutes, and he was giving the president kind of a walking battlefield tour from about 1,500 feet.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Very
so they do that. But then outside of that, it's pretty much when he's getting on and off the helicopter. And then if you go to Camp David, you will, the rule at Camp David was if you're in the gym working out and the president comes in, finish your set and then depart. But he always would say, "Do not leave on my account." So
that's nice.
Yeah. So you did get some of those kind of interactions.
Very cool. Well, how did you go from that to being in business development?
Sure. So after the tours at HMX, I went and spent, or the tour at HMX, I went and spent a couple of tours in Iraq. with the only squadron I really ever deployed with, the gunfighters, HMLA 369. If you ask us, we will tell you gunfighters rule for sure. But did 2 tours in Iraq, and then when that was completed, I was assigned to the Marine Aviation Training Center there at Camp Pendleton, and so I was in charge. I was officer in charge of the simulators that we had there and all the courseware, the instructors and the maintainers. I kind of managed all of those folks. So for 3 years, I was deeply ingrained in the Marine Corps' training system. And realized very quickly that training and simulation was something I wanted to do as a career. I want to be part of that. And so I got my program management professional degree, the PMP certification, and put a resume together focused on managing training and simulation programs. And through a series of very fortunate handoffs, my resume ended up on Mike Durant's desk. And for about 5 years, neither one of us could figure out how it actually got there. And if Shady Rogers ever hears this podcast, I credit him for getting me into Pinnacle, because he's the one that put that resume on Mike's desk.
So just real quick to clear up for our listeners, right? You are both with Pinnacle Acoma, but specifically because they have one company purchased the other.
Correct.
And have kind of merged a little bit, right? So do you want to explain that real quick?
Sure. Pinnacle is a subsidiary of Acoma at this point. So Acoma is the parent company, and Pinnacle is one of about 45 subsidiaries in the Acoma family of companies.
And what does Pinnacle do?
Very focused in simulation and training. When Mike founded the company, the goal was to build a full flight simulator. We learned very quickly that there aren't many full flight simulators from scratch being developed anymore. There's a lot of, you have your big OEMs that build those, but for the most part, need to focus in modifications, upgrades, that kind of thing. So that's where we focused. Focused a lot in innovation and developing our own product lines internally. That was really big to us, is to beat the requirement to the field, right? We wanted to have the product ready when the requirement hit. So we focused a lot on that throughout the years. As you grow, you start expanding your capabilities. So we did move into more services and maintenance, aviation maintenance type programs. So the footprint really broadened over the years, but the initial push was aviation training.
So Acoma is basically the holding company.
Okay.
And so it has all of your contracts folks, finance and accounting, human resources, business development, which we call corporate development. So it has all of those, what we call shared services types folks, who then get matrixed or support, sent out to support individual opportunities or operating companies.
Okay. So for folks who are not corporate bound in their careers, can you tell us a little bit about what being the business developer, what that means, and then also what it's like, what it means to be the president of a big company like this?
So from the business development side, it's all about first understanding what the boss wants to do, right? So this is why we work very closely with our executive team at Pinnacle, for example, and the vice president of engineering and the vice president of services to understand what kind of opportunities do you want to pursue. And then as a business development team, we go out and we look for those opportunities. And whether they're domestic or whether they're international, whether it's related to defense or whether it's commercial, we're the ones that will go out and try to find the opportunity. And then the part that we get really excited about is not just finding the opportunity, but then finding the right teammates, because it's rare that you can go after, true, big, meaningful contracts and do it on your own. So developing relationships with good partners and then building a relationship and rapport with your customers to understand their requirements. And then when you go to write the proposal, make sure you bring in the team that's got to execute it, that they agree, yes, this is a good solution, and yes, at this price, we can actually do the work and make a little money. Yeah. Okay. So it's a true team effort, not just going out, playing golf, and signing a contract. You can do that.
Sure.
It doesn't always end well, especially when you hand it over to the execution team that says, what were you thinking?
And Tina, what about being a president at Pinnacle?
Sure. So it's really, in my mind, two-pronged. One is setting that strategy for the business development team and the operational team that supports us. What are those initiatives over the next couple of years that we really want to focus on? How do we want to grow? What are the opportunities that are out there that we should be looking at, 2 and 3 years out? But then also, I think a lot of it is focused on removing barriers for the execution team. So the teams that are out in the field supporting the customers, the one that are actually turning the wrenches or maintaining the simulators.
Right.
What can we do as an organization to make them more successful? Because in turn, we're going to profit more as a company, but also it makes their life easier, right? And to me, those people that are out in the field supporting our customers, they're my customer, right? So that's my role, is one, setting strategy, but then also looking at what can we do to make us more efficient,
right,
and more successful internally.
Can you tell me a little bit about the kind of projects that you all work on these days?
Sure. So one, we just recently were awarded the T7A maintenance training contract. That's a huge win for us. We will be developing the suite of maintenance trainers for the new T7A aircraft. So the Air Force is replacing their T-38 trainer aircraft with the T7. All the aviation training is being done by Boeing, but they competed the maintenance training. And we were recently awarded that with a team. And so we will lead that effort over the next 3 to 5 years to develop everything, again, from the courseware, virtual training, desktop-based, all the way through full engine replicas to do maintenance training. It's going to be a really neat project. It's 5 years in the making, I think.
And it'll be, when we're done, and not just because of us, but just in general, it will be the most sophisticated maintenance training system in the world, certainly from an aviation standpoint. I mean, the technologies that the Air Force was asking for and required, we're going to be able to deliver, and there's not going to be another training suite in the world like it. So we feel very fortunate. It was a long time in coming, for sure. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears going to big proposals like that, but yeah, we're very fortunate for sure.
But I mentioned the product-based side of Pinnacle and how we really try to beat that requirement to the field. We've spent many years developing virtual maintenance products. So again, computer-based or VR headsets, that kind of training product. Spent a lot of time on the core functionality and how to make that training product, how to develop them faster, more efficiently. And we've got those deployed internationally. We teach Black Hawk training to the Portuguese Air Force. We have a team going over next month. They're going to deploy with a case full of laptops and take our training system over there and help teach those maintainers how to transition from their current aircraft to the Black Hawk. So that suite of training systems has done a lot for us as far as a growth perspective. We're now supporting the Marine Corps on their amphibious combat vehicle. We're developing virtual maintenance training for that. So it's really just helped us branch out and really be experts in the field of virtual maintenance training.
That's really awesome. That's neat stuff. How did you all end up involved, or are you involved with the Space and Rocket Center?
So we are becoming more involved.
Okay.
So it's hard not to live in Huntsville and not somehow, be around the Space and Rocket Center, everything going on, whether it's Space Camp or Aviation Challenge. But what we have realized is that I've never lived anywhere nearly as long as I have being here in Huntsville, Madison area. I mean, this is now truly home. And so a couple of years ago, Tina and I both realized, we said, hey, this is really long-term. We have a 9-year-old who's in school here. We live just up the street from where she'll graduate high school. So we're here for the long term.
Right.
And so we have made a very conscious decision to become more involved in the community for sure, not just in business, but otherwise. And so it became very natural for us to want to get more involved. And so through some great connections we've made with the team here and rekindling some old connections we have with some folks that are at Space Camp, Aviation Challenge, we definitely are looking for ways where we can bring our technology integrated and meet some of the requirements of Space Camp Aviation Challenge, and hopefully create, learning environments that are the next step and that will resonate with the students, the campers that are coming through, because we're not reading through, paper-based manuals anymore.
Right.
Everything we're learning through the use of virtual reality, augmented reality, gamification of even complex training tasks.
Wow.
And so we're hoping that we can leverage what we've done and create some partnerships here that where we can bring some of that and quickly, rapidly, and in very cost-effective ways, be able to integrate it into some of the programs here at the Space and Rocket Center.
It's definitely an exciting time to do that with it. It's the year of aviation, and also with the new Aviation Challenge building being constructed, there's lots of opportunities.
Right.
It's very exciting. So you did just mention that that the two of you have a 9-year-old. Tell me a little bit about how the two of you met.
you walked in the elevator at Pinnacle, and, and there I was. We met at Pinnacle. So I was employee number 4. Pinnacle opened its doors in February 2008, and I started in May of 2008. Duke walked in July of 2011, and we began quickly working together on a Black Hawk electrical trainer program. He was the program manager, and I was an engineer. But again, I quickly realized that the engineering world was not for me.
Sure.
So we quickly became peers at Pinnacle, and then just continued to work together. I think what did it for us was running. We loved to run together, and so we had a little running group that would go out a couple of times a week when we were working in Providence, and so great area to run, and then sit and have a little pizza and maybe a beer at a Mellow Mushroom, and so just really got to know each other well through the running community that we had at Pinnacle as well. So
yeah, that was it. It's unique in that you don't find a lot of couples that live together and do well,
Right.
and then work together and do well. But we do remember somewhat explicitly when we realized that something was going on. We walked into Mike's office and said, "Hey, boss, it's still a small company. I mean, we maybe had 25 people or so in the office, and we said, hey, there's something here." And he said, "Just don't make me write a policy. We're a small company, right? Just keep me out of trouble."
Yeah.
So
and we were successful.
we were.
Sounds like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. We actually, I think we have a very good working relationship. We do well. Every once in a while, you could feel a little argument coming out that might be a little more personal than, but we do a pretty good job. We actually take it as a compliment. We have many people that will start working for us and just think the last name is a coincidence. And,
Not even realize it.
Right. So that's a big compliment to us. We feel like we're doing it right.
Yeah. There's only been one time where I had to go home and say, "Hey, you can't say that to me in a meeting." Right? I think, I think she talked to me in a meeting. I think the quote was, "What's got you all pissy?" I said, "Well, I will tell you."
Do you all have like a we don't talk about work at home kind of
Oh
some rules
man,
and things?
I
One of
tried
us
so
does.
hard.
I'm in business development. Business development never sleeps. So we have great partners in Saudi Arabia, and I'm on the phone with them
Because of the hour difference.
because of the hours
time
difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's hard for me to really shut it off, but we try to, especially when our 9-year-old's around, we try to not do the business stuff. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, tell me what does the future look like for you all and your company?
I think Pinnacle, that most recent win with the T7A program has set us up to be very successful to continue to rapidly grow over the next couple of years. ACMA itself is a $2 billion organization and has great aspirations to continue to grow rapidly, and I think we'll be a big contributor to that. I think we'll continue to expand that Air Force footprint, expand our virtual product development, expand some work with the Navy. We do a really good job of diversifying our customer base, and we're in a great spot right now to continue to grow and mature that organization.
Yeah, as Pinnacle was growing, Mike would sit down with the senior leaders pretty routinely and say, "What do we want to be?" Because we were very successful as a small business, more specifically as a small disadvantaged or a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. And there are contracts that are set aside specifically for that socioeconomic status. Well, as we started out growing some of those size standards where you were considered a small business, we had to really be very deliberate about, are we going to grow or are we not?
Right.
And the answer was always, let's grow, right? Let's get through no man's land where you are a big small business but a small large business.
That's that level where a lot of businesses go out of business because growing is hard.
And it is. And so he did a tremendous job of making sure we were set up to get through that no man's land and truly make the leap into large business. But he was also very honest with us that, hey, if somebody comes asking about whether or not we want to sell, there's a number, right? There's a number, because we were, he owned the company for years up until we became an ESOP in 2016.
Partial in 2016 and full in 2022.
Yeah. So we transitioned to become an employee-owned company through the ESOP program, which was tremendous. And that was an indication that we really wanted to continue to grow. But then somebody came knocking, and that somebody was a company called Acoma. And when we met, and Tina lived this on a daily basis as we were going through the due diligence in this acquisition process, what we quickly realized is that the numbers were very attractive to us, and there were a number of folks that, you know, really benefited from the sale. But I think more importantly was a cultural fit. I mean, that was one of the big things that the leadership teams talked about.
Right. Yeah, between the cultural fit and then Acoma is an Alaska Native corporation, and there's a lot of contracting benefits that come with that. So as we were looking at that no man's land, that was very attractive to the business, and it allowed us to keep our identity. You know, we weren't being merged into this large company.
Right.
We got to stand alone as Pinnacle and figure out a way to work with all the other subsidiaries and the shared services organization within Acoma. So that keeping that identity with our customers and our partners was really important, and it was kind of the best of both worlds from an acquisition perspective. It allowed us to do that and reduce some of the risks the organization was facing in the future.
And you know, that was huge kudos to the Acoma leadership team. I mean, Bill Monet is the president and CEO of Acoma, and he came down and looked everybody in the eyes. He goes, "We are not firing one of you. We are not changing your business. We are acquiring Pinnacle and bringing you into the family to let you continue to do Pinnacle things." And I mean, it's been a little over 2 years now, and I mean, he has stayed 100% true to his word, and we've all benefited from that. Sure. I think mutually benefited both sides, and so it was a really good acquisition. And I mean, if you've ever talked to somebody that's been part of an acquisition, there are nightmares.
Yeah.
And this was as smooth as you could possibly imagine. So,
that's wonderful.
yeah.
Well, tell me, is there anything that we've not talked about that you all would like to broach?
I love to brag on Tina because she is a local homegrown product here. I mean, this is born and raised. Well, okay, maybe not born here, but raised here, and a product of the local public school systems, and you know, clearly tremendously successful. And we hope the same for Hudson, our 9-year-old. Is that I mean, I moved around all over the place, and there is a very good chance that she is going to go be in the same school system until she graduates from high school. But one knock on Tina's resume is that she never attended space camp, even though she.
Now they do it in the schools in 6th grade, and I think that's amazing.
Did you attend space camp?
I did not.
You did not.
No, so you know, it's. I'm sure I heard of it, but
Right.
it was likely. My dad was an enlisted sailor, and my mom stayed at home, and so it was probably fiscally challenging to send us down. But no, I am absolutely going to take advantage of having a 9-year-old here locally, and we are going to be coming to space camp, multiple versions of it.
I think sometimes growing up here, you take for granted what's in your backyard.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. You know, you take for granted that you drive by the rocket every day, and what really an amazing thing that is.
You know, probably the one thing I alluded to it a little bit about really wanting to get involved in the community. You know, I mean, I've lived a lot of different places, visited a lot of different cultures, and I think that Huntsville-Madison community is about as good as you're going to get. I mean, this place is phenomenal, and I mean, we are every day making decisions about how we can, you know, expand our network, and not even from a business perspective, but I mean, there's so many tremendous opportunities here that I think if you live here, just open your eyes, you're going to be able to do anything you want. I mean, it's a really great place.
Is your daughter's name, is that a little Long Island reference?
So it's funny. No, it isn't, but it does tie in nicely. As we talked about having a family, Tina was very clear that she loved
Gender neutral names.
Gender neutral names, boys' names for girls, and so when and you want to talk about Hudson?
It was actually I liked the name Easton first, but then we had friends that had an Easton, so that was out the window. So back to the drawing board. You know how that goes. But Hudson, Ohio, is a town that Duke's mom's family founded many, many years ago. And so we had been up there to visit, and it just kind of hit that would be a really pretty name for a girl, I felt like.
Ties into the family history.
That's right. That's right. So we went with Hudson. Elizabeth is actually, we adopted Hudson at birth, so that's her birth mother's name. So Hudson Elizabeth. And she is just quite the little fire. It's going to be interesting to see what she does.
That's awesome. All right. So the last two questions then that we always ask is, the first is, if you were offered an opportunity to go into space today, would you go?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if Jared Isaacman is listening, because I don't think we've ever had a former Marine presidential helicopter pilot go to space. So if he wants to take one, I will gladly stick my paw in the air.
And the other question is, tell me if you could give advice to a young person today who is considering a career in your fields, in aviation, or any of the things that you all have done, what kind of advice would you give?
I think to me, it's that aviation means so many different things, right? I wasn't an aviator, never flown an aircraft before, but I feel ingrained in the aviation community. So you don't have to have served, even though I'm thankful for everyone that does, and absolutely encourage those that want to serve. But there's many ways to get into the aviation field, and it doesn't have to be as a pilot. Right. So there's, obviously there's logistics, there's training, there's so many different things that you can do in the aviation world, and they all are very important to supporting our pilots. You can't do it without them.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You have got to explore. If aviation, aerospace is of interest, talk to as many people as you can, right? Learn about their careers and their experiences, because so many folks will see, they hear aviation and they think pilots, right? Pilots, while important and in a lot of instances, right, they are just a very small part of the entire industry. And so talk with a lot of different folks and learn about the different careers that are available, because you might find out you're not qualified, color blindness or whatever. And so there's a lot out there. So just talk to people.
What I find